Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews. I'm here. Let me, fuck, I didn't even fix it. I'm here with a review of a 1975 low budget zombie slasher kind of movie, called Frozen Scream. Now, I watched this movie about a week ago, and I didn't really know if I wanted to do a review on it or not, because it seemed like the perfect kind of movie for my channel and my tastes, but at the same time, I just kind of didn't feel like reviewing anything. I've now decided a week later that I want to review it, so here I am. So, Frozen Scream. This movie has to do with a college student who is working on a formula for immortality, but before he can test it on anybody, he is kidnapped by a cult who believes that that drug he's making, in combination with freezing the people you give it to, will create frozen zombies that will do whatever you want, essentially. And a detective is hired on the case to figure out what the fuck's going on. So, yeah, this is a really ultra low budget, obscure zombie movie that would be completely forgotten if it weren't for the fact it was on the Video Nasty list. So, what can I say about this movie? This movie is kind of an absolute trip. So, it's really poorly acted. The acting is actually really fucking amazingly laughable. And the writing is just non-existent, pretty much. The editing is a big part of what makes this movie very interesting and watchable, because the movie is edited in a very unintentionally surreal and choppy style. There are moments where a voiceover will start in the film over top of a scene where there's already dialogue, and you can hear the dialogue faintly in the background as this voiceover is happening. Very similar to A Night to Dismember by Doris Wishman, or what am I thinking of? The Creeping Terror, which is really bad. This movie is essentially just this ultra low budget mess of a movie that, if it wasn't for the fact that they felt the need to explain the plot a bit more by adding in these scenes by adding in this narration, as well as it just being like really, really low budget and convoluted, this movie wouldn't be remembered for really anything. And that's kind of what makes this movie worth seeing. It's one of those movies, I would say, comparable to like Manos: The Hands of Fate or Invasion of the Blood Farmers, although not as bad as either of those. But it's a movie in a similar vein to those movies, where they're very weird, unintentionally surreal, and depending on your kind of taste, can be very unintentionally comedic and enjoyable. But at the same time, they're movies that are hard to recommend to just about anybody, because they are exactly that. They're very weird and niche and cult. I gotta say, though, I kind of sort of really like Frozen Scream. I mean, it's just a really fucking incoherent mess of a movie. It barely works, and when it does, it's thanks to an actually intentionally surreal moment, kind of like the dream sequences in the movie. Also, the movie was taken and edited into another film, which was shot on video film, called Escape from the Insane Asylum, which is a really, really awful movie, and that one's legitimately boring as hell. Thankfully, this movie has a bit of gore to help out too, on top of the bad writing and acting being very, 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 very just giggle-worthy. There's also a really great scene where a character is sitting there, kind of waiting for a phone call, and he's smoking a cigarette, and then he puts it out, gets out another one, lights it, takes one hit off it, and then the phone rings and he puts it out real quick and answers the phone. And it is absolutely just one of those things that you have to see, because for some reason it is absolute fucking gold. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit of an incoherent mess. Just, I don't know how many times we're going to say that phrase, but I'm sorry if this review is a bit of a mess. I've been drinking, and I'm talking about a movie I watched a week ago, so please excuse me. All these things I've said about the movie being very entertaining and surreal aside, the movie does get kind of boring at times, but I would never say that the boringness is super apparent and there all the time, because there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie that makes it worth watching. But I don't know what else to say. Let me just go with the gore meter and then just cut this off, because this is bad. God, I fucking hate my life. Oh yeah, from a technical standpoint, the movie is decently shot, I guess. It's very cheaply made, and it looks cheap. It's just a cheap, almost backyard home movie kind of horror film. And then we finally get to the gore. This movie was actually taken off of the Video Nasties list after being only on it for like 3 months. So that being said, the gore in this movie actually isn't that explicit at all. There are a couple scenes in particular that really stand out, but other than that, it's mostly fairly standard stuff. An axe to the face here, a strangling here, a severed limb there, and you've got a movie. Oh, God. What am I fucking doing with my life? Okay. Anyway, this is a movie I can't recommend to really anybody but people like me who find some kind of strange enjoyment in movies like Manos in the Hands of Fate, or in movies like The Corpse Grinders, the ghastly ones, Torture Dungeon, did I say Invasion of the Blood Farmers? Manos in the Hands of Fate. You know, movies like that are just absolutely irredeemable garbage. Like, if you're a fan of Andy Milligan's movies, this is worth seeing. If you're a fan of, I'd say even if you're a fan of like the movie Things, which is a really, really fucking wild shot on 8mm film. If you're a fan of that movie, I would say give this one a watch. It's not as crazy as Things, but it's definitely in a similar vein with how the movie kind of fucked itself over in the end. Anyway, I'm gonna give this one probably a 2.5 out of 5. It's not necessarily a good movie by any means, and it does get a bit boring, but it's a movie I find very enjoyable nonetheless. And that being said, this is Biscaboo Horror Reviews signing off. Peace.